You're not watching a video, you're meeting the person you could be. The hidden path to ultimate courage. You're not here by accident. You're here because somewhere under the noise, you sensed a whisper of something truer, a version of you that isn't afraid of being human. I see you, the person who spends nights testing their own thoughts, who can feel the world turning but isn't always sure what turn you should take. If you're exhausted by pretending to have it all together, you've found a mirror that isn't polishing you but exposing you. Welcome to a conversation you may have been avoiding. The interior weather of your own mind. Imagine you're carrying a coat that fits you perfectly, woven from your fears, habits, and judgments. It's not visible to the street, but it changes how you walk, how your shoulders hold themselves when you step into a crowded room. This coat protects you, but it also makes the air feel thinner, your thoughts louder, and your hands more likely to tremble at the wrong moment. This is our common paradox. Protection that deprives us of possibility. We'll begin not with grand ideas that shout, but with a quiet inventory, a philosophy of the day-to-day, the unglamorous choices that sculpt who you become when no one is watching. Think of your life as a garden, but you didn't plant the seeds with intention. You watered what you believed you deserved to see grow. The grudges, the routines, the tiny comforts that require no courage. The German pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer warned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to act in spite of fear. Your habits are that daily act of courage or surrender. Here's a simple thought experiment. Watch yourself as if you were a scientist studying a nervous animal. When you wake, what is the first impulse? Do you reach for information to drown out loneliness? Or do you reach for stillness to hear what your loneliness has to tell you? Nietzsche once said, "Become who you are." But becoming requires staying with yourself long enough to notice who you are in moments of discomfort, not just in bursts of inspiration. The trick isn't eradicating fear. It's discovering what fear wants to reveal. Story. A young coder in a small apartment has a ritual. Check notifications until the sun becomes a rumor on the horizon. One night, they decide to write a 200-word note to their future self, describing what they're most afraid of. The note isn't dramatic, it's ordinary. In writing it, fear loosens its grip enough for a small, honest question to surface. What if you didn't need to be liked by everyone to be worthy of your own life? We're all chained to screens, listening to the shadows we project onto others. Judgments, comparisons, the fear of missing out. Plato's cave isn't ancient, it's present tense. We mistake the reflections on a glass screen for reality. The cure is not to abandon the screen, but to learn to turn the brightness inward, to ask, what is this shadow telling me about what I'm avoiding in myself? Machiavelli isn't celebrated for cynicism. He's celebrated for a stark clarity. Institutions, governments, and even families are built on choices under pressure. But the fiercest arena is inside you, where fear shapes the cheap tyrant who tells you, don't risk your heart, don't show your weakness. The paradox is that the more you try to control the impression you make, the less you control your reality. Psychologically, this shows up as a perfectionist's cunning. You punish yourself for real mistakes, so you won't fail publicly, and you fail privately anyway, because the private mind is loud enough to drown out the outside world. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your competence parade is often a defense against vulnerability. The flip side of this is not courage in grand acts, but the mundane bravery of saying, I don't have to be perfect to be enough. That's a revolution in slow motion. Example: a graphic designer spends nights polishing a portfolio, terrified that any crack in confidence will ruin opportunities. Instead of showing a rough draft and asking for feedback, They chase flawless pixels and end up delivering nothing at all. A mentor shows them a rough draft with a note. This is not you making a mistake. This is you choosing to risk being seen. The act of sharing the imperfect piece becomes the first honest investment in their own future. Plato's dialogues are not about finding the right answers as much as about learning to listen to hard questions. Philosophy isn't a lecture hall. It's a living room where you argue with your most stubborn beliefs and then invite them to tea. Nietzsche would ask, what if the weary, cautious version of you is merely a shield against the more dangerous truth you haven't dared admit? Let's anchor this with a mental exercise. List 3 beliefs you defend daily. Then ask, what would it mean if these beliefs were wrong? Not to undermine yourself, but to illuminate the parts of you that hold back your better life. If belief A is, I must always appear strong, your life's most powerful moments might be when you admit you're not strong all the time, and that's okay. Story twist. The person who seems most in control often lives with the most meticulous plan to avoid the most inconvenient truth, that life's stability is a fragile illusion. The real source of power isn't certainty. It's the willingness to tolerate ambiguity, to sit with the unknown until it starts to feel like a landscape you can navigate, rather than a cliff you must leap. History isn't just dates. It's the accumulation of human attempts to answer the same 2 questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Bonhoeffer's answer to evil wasn't a philosophical retreat into abstractions. It was a choice to act righteously in the most dangerous of times. That moral courage fought through fear to protect something larger than himself, the integrity of conscience under pressure. Think of your life as a thread woven through the loom of history. The Romans built roads not only to connect cities, but to remind the empire that movement itself is a kind of moral discipline. If you travel, you must acknowledge who you are when you leave your comfort behind. Your ancestors didn't know your name, but they understood the arc of struggle. You are asked to become more than you were yesterday, even when yesterday feels like a promise you cannot keep. The body stores truth the mind can barely bear to admit. Chronic tension, shallow breaths, a throat that tightens when it wants to speak. These aren't mere symptoms, they're memory of betrayals, of apologies too late, of boundaries broken and restored. The body's symptoms can become a map if you learn to read them with tenderness rather than judgment. Here's a practical ritual, simple enough to keep through the chaos. Once a day, sit quietly for 3 minutes, place a hand on your chest, and name the 3 states you're feeling: fear, longing, gratitude. Then, without narrative, notice where those feelings rest in your body. Does fear sit in your stomach as a knot? Does longing pool in your shoulders? The act of labeling makes room for them to move. The more you dignify your bodily truth, the less your body will demand your attention through pain. Here's the twist you didn't see coming. You don't become the best version of yourself. You become a more honest version of the you already are. The greatest gift is the permission to stop pretending that you're a finished sculpture. Life doesn't hand you a final, polished statue. It hands you a clay wisp, asking you to mold it again and again with imperfect hands, until maybe one day the form matches a truth you can live with. When you accept that growth is lifelong and messy, you stop chasing an end state and start choosing a process. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence isn't a burden, it's a practice. Every choice you make compounds into the person you are becoming. If you want a different future, you must take different actions now. Not next week, not after you've acquired the perfect set of tools, but now. Ideas don't transform worlds, people do. The philosopher's greatest weapon is not a sharp blade, but a practiced sentence of courage, spoken in the kitchen, the bus, or the bedroom, when the moment demands it. So I offer you 3 tiny, stubborn choices you can make today. Choice 1. Tell one person a truth you've been hiding from them, even if that truth is, "I'm learning to ask for help." The act of naming vulnerability in a relationship is a political act. It says that closeness is valuable enough to risk harm for. Choice 2. Do one thing you fear, even if it's modest. If public speaking terrifies you, start with a 60-second voice memo detailing your current fear. Then post it somewhere safe or share with a trusted friend. The goal isn't perfection, it's proximity to your fear. Choice 3. Write one paragraph of your own philosophy for living. It can be as personal as, "I choose to extend grace to myself when I fail," or as abstract as, "Meaning is not found." It is made through acts of care. The act of writing codifies your own compass and makes tomorrow less uncertain. If you leave this conversation with one idea, let it be this: your life is a dialogue between who you pretend to be and who you're becoming. The content of that dialogue isn't measured by triumphs or applause, but by the quiet integrity with which you show up to your own truth again and again, without guarantee. The world will keep telling you who you should be: louder, faster, shinier. But the deeper you listen to the intelligence of your own breath, the more you realize that the most radical act you can perform is to stay present with your imperfections and choose to act anyway. In that stubbornness, there's a kind of freedom. Not escape from life's mess, but the power to shape it with your own imperfect hands. So ask yourself now, what is the smallest, bravest thing I can do in the next hour to honor the truth I'm afraid to admit? If you found yourself exposed in this moment, know that's not a flaw. It's a sign you're alive to your own depth, and depth, once touched, begins to reshape the surface. End on a soft invitation. If you're willing to walk with this idea a little longer, comment for more conversations that don't pretend to have all the answers, but promise to stay with the questions. Together, we'll explore the gnarled paths that lead from fear to something resembling courage, one ordinary, stubborn step at a time.